The big game is here. Super Bowl 57, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs out in Glendale, Arizona. And it's going to be a game for the ages. Let's hope it's a classic, even though you definitely know who I want to win. But let's just have a good time with it. And let's preview Super Bowl 57 with Alex Ranellia, Bryan McKeon, and Alex Young. Gentlemen, we made it here. The whole season of coverage, and finally two teams are left, and that's the Eagles and the Chiefs. So we'll get more in depth on the keys to victory for both teams, but at least for right now, when you see this matchup on paper in just a few words or less, tell me, how do you feel about this matchup going into it in the Eagles and the Chiefs?
I'm excited for it. I think it's two great offenses and one great defense with the Eagles. The Chiefs defense is all right with Chris Jones, but I think it's the eyes are going to be on the offense. Two black quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl for the first time is pretty cool matchup to see. And yeah, I mean, both guys kind of underdogs, if you will, starting off in their careers. Hurts more than Mahomes, but both guys will the teams here. I think it's going to be a fun, exciting game. But yeah, I'm looking for a high-powered shootout between these two teams. That's the Super Bowl I kind of want. I don't want the slugfest like defensive matchup. I want full-on college football, like just ridiculous scores here because I think that'd be the most entertaining, knowing how good these two offenses are.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you anymore. I think it's going to be I think it's two powerful offenses with one defense that is solidified itself as, the second best defense of all time. One could say if you just look at this, statistics with the '85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens, and Kansas City defense, they're no chump either. They have played well this season. When needed to, they know how to step up in big games and make the plays when needed. So I think it's going to be a fair matchup, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what some of these coordinators are able to dial up. Who has the coaching advantage, and I think that that's definitely going to play in favor of either team, depending on how they play their cards. Right, who pulls the first punch and who withdraws and makes second half adjustments. Who's rising to the occasion. So
It's awesome when you have two number one matchups and you have two number one seeds going at it. Excuse me. I'm so excited that my body can't handle it. So this will be a fun matchup. The best in the AFC, the best in the NFC. And we really have some legacies on the line one way or the other, especially how people will be remembered. And that's going to be a real talking point that I'm going to speak on now because the Super Bowl always has its storylines with it. This year's Super Bowl, as mentioned, two black quarterbacks going at it for the first time. Very, very sweet to see. And it's nice to know that the NFL, that is a normal occurrence now. And now with more black quarterbacks, it was a problem way back when, but now it's not. So we're happy with that progress in that sense. And it's going to be two great athletes leading their teams to the ultimate game and moment. And I'm really excited to see how that unfolds because I'm sure we will at least see these two quarterbacks in many of the big, have many opportunities in the big game. And another thing that takes place, a big storyline into this. Why don't we speak on Andy Reid first of all? This is a cool situation with a obvious Hall of Famer in Andy Reid, one of the best coaches to ever do it. And he has led the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl. He has led the Chiefs to the Super Bowl in a Super Bowl victory. And now wouldn't it be such a great and poetic ending if Andy Reid can beat his old employer in the Super Bowl, the team that he took to so many NFC championships, the team that he almost and very closely was able to get them their first Super Bowl win back in 2004 against the Patriots. but he always came up short. And he gets the chance in Kansas City to reinvent himself, rejuvenates the Kansas City Chiefs franchise. And if he can win his second Super Bowl and beat the one team that would have let him fulfill the ultimate dream, how can you not like that? Talk to me on how you guys feel about Andy Reid in this and how important is this game? And let's get dramatic with it. Is this Andy Reid's biggest game of his life as a coach? The answer is obviously yes, but I'd like to hear your perspectives.
So I always come under the opinion that every game is the biggest game of your life up to that point. So for Andy Reid in this situation now, as he's, towards the retirement age of coaching, this is his biggest game of his career, if you think about it, because you're not guaranteed to come back to this. It is so rare to consistently go to the playoffs and make it to the Super Bowl, let alone the NFC or the AFC championship game. And Andy Reid has done it now 10 times in his coaching career, which is just an absolute amazing stat. 10 conference championship games. And now he's going to, I'm trying to think, what would this be? His fifth Super Bowl?
No, it's only his third.
Or his third, I'm sorry, third. Fifth consecutive AFC championship game. That's what I meant. This is an absolutely amazing statistic. The man loves cheeseburgers. I'm a fan of him already. There's a lot of riding on him. I think this puts him in, we always talk about the great coaches, and I always think of George Halas, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, and then you have the second tier guys. Then you have like Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, those kind of guys. Like Tom Landry, I'd put in the top tier as well. And how do you get into that top tier? This Super Bowl right here is it for him. Beating your former team that you coached a very long time, brought them to Super Bowls against arguably, a top 5 defense all time, in my opinion, in the Eagles. As an offensive, guru and Andy Reid, this is the ultimate challenge and the test for him, where if he wins, he can walk off into the sunset happy.
I think you make some great points, Bryan. I think when we distinguish the tiers of coaching throughout the history of the game, I think that there's definitely a lot on the line with Andy Reid in that proper context. I think in the overall big picture, I don't think he really has much left to prove. I think winning the first Super Bowl was the biggest game of his life prior to this, and I don't think this will really usurp it, even with some of the the blood of the recent past with his coaching career. A lot of guys, they trade to different organizations and they circulate around the league in the same circle. So I think that a little bit of that is overhyped, but I think that he'll definitely have a little bit of retributional edge in the back of his mind when he comes into this game. And I'm sure it's been going on all week in the back of his subconscious. So I think that a lot of what's going to come down to the wire for him and how we perceive him is just going to be a matter of where we rank him amongst the greats. And I think that the other thing too, like you said, is this particular game and is really possibly maybe the last chance he does get a crack at a second Super Bowl, because the one thing that we have talked about the entire podcast leading up to this in weeks past is there's just so much good budding AFC competition. I mean, there's so many quarterbacks on the pipeline that will be back in this position year after year. So I don't know that he may get this chance again when we consider that.
Not for long, like you said, that the NFL stands for. And by the way, this would be his 4th Super Bowl. So 3 coming into this.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I mean, I agree with Alex. I think him getting over the hump, winning the first Super Bowl was, I think, the key thing, right? I think all of us knew how great of a coach he was, but like whatever mattered most for the big game, he never seemed to exceed. And he finally got a Super Bowl, and I think that he earned that. I think this go around is more of the Brady Belichick dynamic of I didn't need you to win a Super Bowl. I think that's the matchup you need to look at, right? Like Brady goes to the Bucs, he wins the Super Bowl, and everyone was like, he needs Belichick, and he's like, yeah, I didn't need you, I still got my Super Bowl. I think that's how Andy could look at it that way, right? And he understands how big this game is. It's never easy to go to Super Bowl. You constantly hear him say, you've got multiple AFC championship games in a row, but he didn't go to 5 straight Super Bowls, right? There's times where he lost. It's never easy to get there, but I think that's how you look at it. As a fan, for me, that's how I'm looking at it. It's more of like, it's like his redemption of, I built myself in Philly, but it didn't work out. I won a Super Bowl in Kansas City, but now I'm going against you, and now I'm going to say, you know what, like, I'm better than you. I can do this. I didn't need you. Like, again, I didn't need you, but it'd just be kind of a weird kind of redemption for him. Because like we said before, like Alex said, and like how I agree with that, free Super Bowl was kind of his thing of, you know, he never got it wrong. He finally got over the hump. Now I think this is kind of a cool kind of revenge, redemption kind of thing of, I beat my former team to get my second Super Bowl, and I can go off into the sunset, knowing that I won up the team that or my former team where everyone thought I was not going to be successful, and I go to Kansas City and do what I did. So it should be a fun matchup. But yeah, I mean, it's very hard to get to Super Bowl. We see that year in, year out, even with a quarterback like Mahomes, and we'll see what happens going forward, but they have to go all in on this one too. You can't take this one easy and think you're going to get right back there the next year.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think his football life documentary wants to end with him beating the Eagles, not the other way around.
I just want to add one more quick stat that I found interesting. There's only been 13 head coaches that have multiple Super Bowl wins. So he wins this one, and he becomes number 14, having 2. So, that's a really, really big stat. And then if you look closer at that stat, there's only 4 coaches that have more than 2. So, getting that second Super Bowl really puts you in a tier like no other.
Mm.
And I'm sure looking at those lists, those are pretty much all Hall of Famers in that coaching tree. But that's what's special. That's what he can accomplish. And he's been a lifer in the NFL for a long time. Let's see him knock off this team that is the favorite at the moment in the Eagles. Kelce versus Kelce is a story that everybody can get behind and be interested in. The center for the Eagles is Jason Kelce. The tight end for the Chiefs. Excuse me. So excited. So, as I was saying, the center for the Eagles is Jason Kelce. The tight end for the Chiefs is Travis Kelce. And for the first time ever, we're having 2 brothers go against each other, both offensive players. So it would have been hilarious to see one of them tackle the other. But this is going to be really, really sweet to watch. Just 2 boys from Cleveland Heights, Ohio, played for the University of Cincinnati together. Jason Kelce, I think, also helped Travis Kelce after he got kicked off the Cincinnati Bengals team I was reading. I actually didn't know that story. And gave him this opportunity to, both be arguably you can make an argument that both of these players can make the Hall of Fame. I think over 5 all-pro selections between the 2 of them. They at least have 5 or more. And I just want to talk about and add to it this Kelce versus Kelce matchup. Tell me, just how excited do you think about this? Like every other show in America is talking about it, but what do you think can really stick out in this special matchup more than anything?
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I mean, they both do a podcast together, and I think they're doing like a great job on their podcast. I always find it fun to listen in and see what they do. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of ties the families together. And I think it's awesome. Technically, the family can't lose. I think Jason's wife is pregnant right now. So I was kind of joking with my family. I was joking with my family, that either way, either Travis, the uncle, is going to come in with a Super Bowl, or, the dad is. So either way, they're going to be able to have a Lombardi right in front of them right when they're born, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, no, I think it just adds to the excitement of this game. They're both respected in the league, like you said, Matt. There's they're arguably both Hall of Famers. Travis is probably a lock at this rate and what he's done in his career, but Jason's been a great player in his own right as well. So I'm excited to see that matchup. They're both on offense, but it's going to be cool to see how they kind of maybe talk trash to each other on the sidelines or something like that as the game's going on. So it's going to be a fun wrinkle. I think we're all kind of interested to see it, but it's great for the Kelce family. And like I said, they're walking away, not losing at any point. So that's awesome for them too.
Yeah, and they both already have a Super Bowl with amongst each other as well.
Mhm.
So who's going to get a second one?
Yeah,
I'm
I
speaking
agree, Alex.
hypothetically, by when I say that. We'll obviously get into that a little more.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I always think about it like, brothers in the NFL, like the amazing ability to like play against each other. You have the Watts, the Boses. If you really think about it, this is it's we've seen so many combos of brothers play in the NFL. In families, you'd be shocked that we've never seen anyone play in the Super Bowl yet together. Um, you know, I would say the one that came would be the closest just because of, the time. Unfortunately, he got hurt. The Sharp brothers, Shannon and Sterling
Mhm.
Sharp, on those two great offenses at the time. Those were the closest ones you could see playing each other in the Super Bowl. And now you finally see it happen. It's awesome. It's awesome for the family. Like, there's people petitioning for their mom to do the coin toss. That's awesome.
Mm.
And they're two lock Hall of Famers. Jason Kelce's starred 176 games in his career. He's a 5-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler. Travis Kelce, is basically a lock for first or second team All-Pro now. And between the trio of him, Mark Andrews, and George Kittle now, it's just a constant rotation of who's better every season. And you look at right now, he's 33 years old and he has almost 10,500 receiving yards. Not only are we talking about him being one of the best tight ends of all time, we're talking about him being one of the best receivers of all time at a yardage point. Because the way he's playing with Mahomes as a true number one receiver, barring any health injuries, he plays for another 5 years. He's going to hit 15,000 at least. And then you're getting in the territory of, Larry Fitz, T.O., and stuff like that. So there's no doubt in my mind he could finish top 5 in receiving all time. So it's really, it's a great thing for the league. It's good PR. They have a great podcast. I love it. And I'm very excited to see what happens. I'm happy that they're not on opposite sides of the ball, because that would suck having to go up against your brother and saying, yeah, he burns me in the Super Bowl. So, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said so far. It's funny when you guys said brothers in the Super Bowl, my mind immediately first went to the Harbaughs actually in 2013. I thought that was pretty,
wow.
That was
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because it's like both of them have both sets of their hands on the entire gameplay. But I think with this one too, there's two different conversations going on parallel with these brothers too, which is who has the bigger historical implication / context aligned with what's at stake in the Super Bowl, or is the second conversation, which I think is more interesting to be had, is who's more valuable to their team. Because I mean, it's very easy to just immediately dismiss Jason and just go right to Travis because we highlight the glamorous play and the big catches and all the highlights and the hoopla. But Jason Kelce is the rock of that offensive line. And if those plays don't get off and the tempo is disrupted, Hurts doesn't look as good as he's supposed to, and that rushing game, that rushing attack is not as sound as it should be. So him being the rock in the middle, I think that the bigger, more interesting conversation to be had is who's more valuable as a Kelce to their team.
That is the best way to go about it, Alex. I think that is true. Who contributes the most to them? And we'll see what the future brings for the Kelce brothers after that, because for the rest of your life, that is the ultimate one-up for the Kelce brothers. And, you just hope both of them get into the Hall of Fame at least to make somebody feel a little more comfortable that they lost to their brother. But in the end, both of them have rings already. So let's see who gets number 2. And speaking of Hall of Famers, I think one epic thing to discuss with this game in particular, especially for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. If Patrick Mahomes wins his second Super Bowl, does that make him a lock Hall of Famer? I think the answer is, again, obviously yes, especially for what he's been accomplished in this short amount of time. And if you get a second Super Bowl, and say you win a second Super Bowl MVP, only Hall of Fame quarterbacks have done it. There's 5 of them. Let's see if Mahomes could be number 6 and also secure his Hall of Fame spot. Please add to the conversation as well. Patrick Mahomes, if he wins this Super Bowl, is he going to the Hall of Fame if he retired the next day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. The way I even think about it is this. I'm just looking at his stats right now. Already, he has more first-team All-Pros than Drew Brees. Drew Brees only has one first-team All-Pro and like 4 second-team All-Pros. And he already has 2 within, how many years now? 5 years. Drew Brees played, close to more than 15. Stuff like that. His accolades speak for himself. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He's an Offensive Player of the Year. 105.7 passer rating. Like that's ridiculous that he has that for his career at the moment. He's close. He's above 65% completion percentage, and he 192 to 49 TD interception ratio. He already has a whole. They always show Tom Brady's like breakups of his like 3 decades he encompassed in his career. And if you look at all those stats, they say all 3 could be a Hall of Fame caliber player. If you look in the first couple of years, it's the same exact stats as Pat Mahomes for yardage and touchdowns and stuff like that, win percentage, maybe one more Super Bowl ring, but he's solidified himself as a Hall of Famer. I wouldn't say first ballot because, it's the luck of the draw of your class, but definitely a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, totally agree. Because if like Eli has 2, like I'm looking at Eli Manning, people debate, if he's a Hall of Famer, to me, yeah, Giants bias, but Mahomes has better stats already than what he's done. And he had 2 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and he has better stats than Eli. And Eli played a bunch of years in the NFL, right? So I think if Mahomes retired today, I think he would have the highest passer rating in NFL history. I could be wrong there, but he's up there in terms of all that. Yeah, no, it's a lock. I mean, he could literally win and then just retire and wait to go to Cannes. I mean, he's not going to do that. He's going to keep on playing because he's getting paid a boatload of money and he is very, very good. But yeah, if he wins this, he's a lock. He probably is a lock already, even with just the one, just because of how great of a talent he is. But yeah, for sure, he wins the second one. It's a wrap. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think without the second, he's still in, but it's a harder sell. If he wins the second one, it's a for sure foregone conclusion that he'll be a lock. I kind of view this in the same conversational context as the Andy Reid discussion in terms of hierarchy and where we put these guys projecting out the remainder of their career. But I also find it fascinating, with the duality of, guys that are kind of hybrid athletes. And I almost wonder, and again, this is just prognosticating, but maybe 10 years down the road, maybe he gets complacent and he gets sick of getting hit and tearing up his ankle and stuff. Maybe he just goes play baseball and does a 180. I mean, I know it's probably a pipe dream because your muscles get into a certain routine and rhythm with one sport, but it's done. It's been done before. It's been done with Jordan, obviously, Bo Jackson, Dion. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think for now, more than ever too, guys with the health regimen they're on and their ability to extend their careers. I mean, it's not out of the realm of reality because the fact of the matter is too, baseball is a far easier sport on the body than NFL could be. And maybe he just looks at his career and his accomplishments, 8-10 years from now and says like, I've done everything there is to do. I don't want to end up like Brady towards the end where I'm degrading on the field in my last season. And maybe it's time to capitalize on a second market.
How about that? So let's get into this right here, right now. Now let's break down the Super Bowl. The way this is gonna work, I'll do what I do every week, introducing the matchup. Then we're just gonna go on the Eagles side and the Chiefs side, and then we'll give your final predictions and give a final score. And that's how we will break down this game. So for the last time this season, let's do it. Super Bowl 57 out in Glendale, Arizona. Kickoff is 6:30 Eastern time. The Eagles are favored by 1.5 at this moment. So let's ask the big question right now and first go to the NFC side. What are the keys to victory for the Philadelphia Eagles?
So the keys for this great Philly team. It's very simple. Do exactly what got you here. Run game, set up play action, Offensive line has to play physical. You got to set up Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. You got to do RPO with Jalen Hurts. You have 2 number 1 receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on this team. Use them well. You have a great tight end for over the middle in Dallas Goedert. Play him the right way that you have done this entire season. Get separation. And with the defense, do exactly what you did. There's a reason why you had 4 starters on the defensive line have 10+ sacks. It's why you're 2 shy sacks away from the all-time sack record for a team with the 85 Bears. There's a reason why your safety, who's more of a hitter, became a ball hawk this year and led the league in interceptions. And TJ Gardner-Johnson. Keep on playing the way you have been doing, and you will win this game. Simple as that.
Yep, agree with what Bryan said. You have to keep on doing what they've been doing, and find what's working early and go for it. Attack early. We've seen the Chiefs sometimes come out slow, so the Eagles need to take advantage if that's the case. I know it's a Super Bowl, so I doubt the Chiefs will come out slow, but it might happen. But just be aggressive, but be smart about it, and let their defense do the work. They're a reason why they're here. They're the key reason why they're here. I know Hurts splatter was mine, but that defense is something special. Let them, get the feel of the game going, and just get after Mahomes. I know Mahomes said he's feeling 100%, but again, he just be doing that as a smokescreen. But just Eagles just come out, be relentless, and do exactly what they did to get here, like Bryan said. Then yeah, I mean their offense is great. Hurts is great. I don't think they're the team that's going to let this moment slip past them. I don't think they're going to be too afraid of the moment. I think they're excited to be here, and I expect them to do well. So the key to them, like I said, to me, is just be aggressive, attack early, and let their defense do the work.
I'm more interested in the comparison of the coaches at the coin toss, because I think that regardless of who wins the coin toss, I think Sirianni and the Eagles are going to play a conservative offense in the first half. They're going to try to feel out their opponent and, take a shot, sparingly here and there, just to kind of see how they react to pain. It's almost like going to the doctor and they like hit your knee and see if your knee kicks up. And it's just like a way of kind of knowing what you respond to. I think that they're going to kind of play the same way. They're not going to get out of their element. They're going to play the offense that got them there, just like you guys have both said and reiterated. So, I think, when it comes to Sirianni versus Andy Reid, I think in the first half, I think you're really going to see a few more chances taken from Andy, because he's playing with house money, being the underdog coming into this game. And I think that his edge is psychological warfare when it comes to offense and running against a younger coach.
So tell me now, gentlemen, what does the Eagles have to avoid doing? What are they not going to do to screw this up?
I would say getting too creative, trying to outsmart the opponent by doing these crazy, double motion, sweeps and bullshit on offense. We know when the offensive coordinators get too crazy and ends up, getting negative yards, and then you have a problem with that. You just got to keep on doing what you're doing, and that's a north and south run game straight up the middle. That's what they're known for. Don't go to the edges. You have an injured right tackle right now. You don't want to get him messed up. Just play the game you were doing. But yeah, avoid that. And for the defense, I think the key would be with Patrick Mahomes and with they don't have a great offensive line, but they have a good offensive line. Their rookie centers really well. I think his name is Humphrey on the Chiefs.
Save that Chiefs coverage for when we talk specifically about the Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, for the defense, though, I would say don't get so aggressive in your pass rush. Rely on your main 4 guys and try to, keep as many linebackers or cornerbacks as you can in coverage. Because, Pat Mahomes, when mobile, will make mistakes. And if you have more men downfield defending, the chance of you getting an interception is a lot higher. And with a defensive line like this, you don't need to rely on a blitz to get pass rush. So, stay true to your typical, rush just from your linemen and not get so crazy with all these design blitz schemes.
Yeah. I was going to say, just for the offense, just not be too conservative, especially early. Try to take your shots here and there when you can, but make sure they're smart shots. Just don't, just try to just be too cute. Just not trying to just run the ball down all the plays if it's not working. If you have a shot, take it. Doesn't hurt. Just be smart about the shots you take. Just don't be over aggressive for the defense. I think this for the Eagles, their key thing is just to limit, the Chiefs' chunk plays. We've seen what Mahomes can do even under pressure. If he's running around, next thing you know, he can underhand the ball, throw it 55 yards, and kind of a touchdown. We've seen it before. It's insane what he can do. Just limit the chunk plays. That's what the Chiefs do to get momentum. These big plays down the field. So the Eagles just have to try to, keep it contained as best they can. I know it's tough. You're asking a lot, especially with, like I said, Mahomes and Kelce and dealing with that. Isaiah Pacheco. And the receiving core, I know the Chiefs receiving core is banged up, but they always find a way. They always have a great next man up mentality over in Kansas City. So Eagles just have to really limit the chunk plays from the Chiefs, because that's what the Chiefs do to kind of gain momentum and try to, ice games down the stretch.
4 guys with 10 or more sacks this year. It's I don't think it's ever been done prior to this Philly team. I think that really needs to be the emphasis for the defenses, collapsing the pocket and not, risking by sending a fifth off the line, but at least disrupting the pocket so that Mahomes has to put weight and emphasis on that ankle and really get him out of his element. We saw the same reaction that happened when Tampa took over that Super Bowl and how he was disrupted and out of sorts. And I think that Philly's going to be looking at a lot of tape from that Tampa Super Bowl as well.
So now let's switch it to the AFC side. The Kansas City Chiefs. What do they need to do to secure their second Super Bowl in 5 years? No, sorry. In 4 years.
Run the football. I think they have to run the football. I think they have to do exactly what no one expects them to do, and that's run the football. You have injured receivers. Kelce still has that bad back injury from the AFC Championship game that was lingering during practice that week. It's still, they said, believe it's still bothering him a little bit now. Run the football. You have Pacheco. You have McKinnon. Use that to your advantage. It's going to help you out, run out clock, because it's no longer that you are playing a lesser of an offense. You're playing an equivalent offense in firepower and in yardage and in scoring. So which means you have to run out the clock, because there's going to be times where they put up more points than you in a quarter than you put up against their defense. So you have to run the clock out and limit mistakes and liabilities.
Yeah, you guys know I'm on the Isaiah Pacheco hype train, for the last few weeks. Just hand the ball off to him, hand it off to the other running backs. I think that's going to be key here. You want to try to gas this Eagles defense, make them work in the run game, especially the front that they have. Try to tire them out, and then take your shots down the field to your receivers. But I think the key to them is really getting the run game started early. Really try to dominate time of possession, and really open things up for the receivers down the field. So, I agree with Bryan here. I think it's really just, getting the run game going early, which will allow you to open up some things in the passing game.
Yeah, and I think a critical thing too is not to get too deterred from running the ball. If they have a few early 3 and outs, I think it's not meant to be discouraging for the offense in particular. I think it's meant to get some intel on what a couple of reads and a couple gives that Philly is kind of sending out there, so that when they go into the half, that they have things that they can look at, like winks and nods, and I think that's going to be able to allow Andy Reid to make adjustments and to capitalize on some of the mistakes that Philly eventually, I think, will make, whether it's a gamble in the secondary or a misdirection across the center of the field with the safety. So I think that there's going to be a lot of surveying and sampling and reading the defense in the first half. And if it means coming up short in a few drives for Kansas City, I think they're willing to eat those points, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a slow, long progression with this offense. All year long, there's been games when this offense for Kansas City has been a little underwhelming. I very much see this being more like a receiver by committee kind of game. I don't expect anybody to have over 70, 80 yards, to be quite honest. and I think it's meant to keep this defense deranged for Philadelphia. Just be disoriented, make them beat themselves, make them question themselves in their game planning, and if that means running the ball as well, then they're definitely going to do it.
Tell me, what does KC have to not do in this game for them to screw it up? Tell me what the Chiefs must do to not lose this game. Or I should say the opposite. What should they not? Yes, what should they not do to lose this game?
Double negative.
I think for me, it's just Mahomes not to get too trigger happy. The limited, not trying to play too much hero ball. We've seen it happen before, especially when there's a lot of pressure coming his way. He tries to force the passes, and it doesn't work out. So I that's the key, at least for me, to have them avoid losing. I know it kind of sounds smart or like idiotic, not smart, I should say, to be like, oh yeah, the quarterback shouldn't throw interceptions. Yeah, that's obvious. We all know that, but. For this, like I said, we just don't need to see Mahomes get, like I said, trigger happy. We've seen it happen before, and it's caused some issues, and especially on the biggest stage and the biggest game of the season, he has to avoid that, especially with this daunting defense. They will literally use that to their advantage and turn the game around real quick. So the key for me is for, Mahomes to not get trigger happy. The defense has to step up here. I know, we all been talking about, Chris Jones, the great season he's had, but they do this step up here because the Eagles' offense is also special, as well as the defense are probably the most balanced team we've seen in a little bit in a long time. So, Chiefs defense needs to show up, but my key thing that I'm looking at, Mahomes avoiding any turnovers, and just trying to force passes when they're not there.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you just said. So two things I think of: the offensive line can have a bad day in pass protection. This has to be your master class of pass block. It's that simple. If you allow him to get hit 3 to 4 times, the game's over. It's just that simple. Especially if he boots out on that ankle and he gets rolled up. We keep on talking about that hip drop tackle that constantly injures players. Tony Pollard broke his leg on that in the divisional round. If he runs out the pocket and gets tackled in a hip drop, his ankle might be done for the game, and that would be the Super Bowl for them. Over. Also, Chris Jones can't have a bad day. I know we just talked about the pass rush, and you want everyone to have a good game. That's your job. If he has a bad game, they have no pass rush. Frank Clark has looked absent the entire season. George Karlaftis is a rookie, but he shows flashes here and there, so he's streaky and not really that reliable. So it comes down to Chris Jones with me with interior pressure. I'd like to also see him on the edge a little more this game, just because with a guy like Hurts, if you get interior pressure on a mobile quarterback, he just boots out, and with his legs, he can make plays. So, contain for them. On the Chiefs defense, they have to keep contain on Hurts. But it's definitely going to come down to the O-line and Chris Jones for me.
Yeah, 100%. I was just kind of looking up, perusing the roster for Kansas City. I know there was a corner for Kansas City that they targeted routinely through the playoffs, and I'm spacing on his name, but I think that
Snead.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Snead.
Yeah. So the young guy from Philadelphia, Gannon, the defensive coordinator, I think that just getting him, like restraining him, because I think that the most glaring obvious thing is the years of experience between Sirianni and this guy Gannon and the offensive coordinator, versus Bieniemy and Spagnuolo and Reid. They're class personified, those three guys, and they've been around for a long time. So I think that they're going to be very poised and savvy in how they operate the first half and what they're seeing and how they're adjusting. And I think it's just a matter of not pulling too many, not pulling punches for Philadelphia. It's a matter of surveying things, sticking, like you said, Bryan, to their identity, both defensively and offensively, and just not giving any hints away, because it's going to be the things that ultimately do them in. It's going to be one big play over the top or one wide open hole. But again, these kind of games are always won and lost in the trenches. So I still think that the crux of this still boils down to the offensive line, but it's going to be interesting to see the kind of 4D and 5D level chess that goes on the sidelines too.
All right. here it is. Let's make our final predictions for the Super Bowl. I just want you to tell me who's going to win, why, the final score, and then give me your MVP. And I'll start it off. I will use my professionalism in this. I hate this team so much. I really do. And it's been well documented, as you know. But at the end of the day, this team looks like it could be an all-time team. They're well coached. They're balanced on both sides of the ball. They're also very healthy. It seems to be very healthy where it matters the most. And at the end of the day, defense wins championships. And I just don't think that the Kansas City Chiefs can even hold it down as the number one seed in the AFC, this Eagles team. I think they're really going to limit the scoring from the Chiefs, and that's going to result in a 28-17 Eagles victory.
Whoa.
And your MVP will be Jalen Hurts, but I just hope I am completely wrong.
Yeah. You go, Bryan.
All right, going off that, do you guys remember Super Bowl 48? Seattle versus Denver, and Denver got absolutely tattooed.
We all want to forget that one. That was terrible.
Yeah. This is what I see in this game. I see a great offense like Kansas City going up against a great built team, like the Eagles, which basically I was looking at the Eagles. They like replicate that Seattle team if you look at it with the run game. Two number one receivers, a mobile quarterback, a great defense. They're like them. I think the Philadelphia Eagles will put up points like no one has seen this season on the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I think Pat Mahomes is going to be constantly under duress in this game. And I see a clear victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. 31-10 Philadelphia.
Oh my God.
And I see Hassan Reddick getting the MVP with 3 sacks this game. In my opinion, though, it's going to go to the entire defensive line. I think in this game alone, that defensive line will have 6 sacks.
You guys,
That'd be something else.
You guys are both picking beatdowns. My dislike for the Eagles is not as much as Matt. I mean, I do hate the Eagles, but it's not as documented as Matt's is. So, like I said, professionalism here. But I'm going with the Eagles here as well. I think they're the most balanced team we've seen in a while. Their defense is super dominant. However, I think the Chiefs are going to show up. I think it's going to be a back and forth game, but I think the Eagles are going to win. I have it 34-28 Eagles. My MVP will be Jalen Hurts as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to catch us off guard, but I think the Eagles are going to overcome it late, and Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP.
So Matt alleges to hate the Eagles more than anybody else in the league, but I would throw my hat in as a strong second because
I encourage it.
My Raiders have been the butt of every joke with Kansas City for so many years that I literally see red, figuratively and literally, when I see this team. So I will be there right there with the green pom-poms. I fully expect, well, first of all, I've seen enough during the AFC Championship game to know that this league and these refs will not let this be a blowout. It'll be a tight game. It'll be a competitive game down to the wire. I'll leave it as politely as that. I expect it to be right down to the last possession where Mahomes gets the ball back with about 2.5 minutes left. But I think ultimately the Philly defense seals it and prevails. I think 28-20 is what we're looking at, final score. And I expect Jalen Hurts to probably be, by default, the MVP. But I think, like you guys alluded to, I think the defense in the front four for Philadelphia should collectively kind of represent the MVP if there was given one to a whole unit. So 28-20 Philly, but I expect us to go down to the wire.
All right. Well, that gentleman, the Super Bowl prediction show has come to a close. Also, don't forget, we have an awesome halftime show with Rihanna, some Google Super Bowl commercials, hopefully some deep drops, and I hope it's a special one. I just hope it's a classic Super Bowl with the Chiefs on top, but it's going to be a lot of fun either way. Any final thoughts on the Super Bowl before we say goodbye?
I'll say this. I think if any year it's going to happen, there easily could be a Super Bowl MVP that loses the Super Bowl just with these two quarterbacks and Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes. We've seen it before. It only happened once in the NFL. There was a Cowboys linebacker that did it. It's possible. Pat Mahomes puts up 5 touchdowns and still loses. Can you blame them for giving him the MVP? Same thing with Jalen Hurts with his combined passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. So I think if any year, this could be the one that could happen.
Totally off topic, but I will be fully eyes wide open for any kind of demonic symbolism in the crowds or some kind of divine intervention going on. It's kind of been the theme for 2022, and I fully expect something weird to happen. Kind of like we were talking about Super Bowl 47 with the power going out with Baltimore and San Fran. I think there's going to be weird, funky shit like that, but I will have my eyes peeled for that because there's never a bad time to have a big wrinkle like that in a Super Bowl. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm always in for the chaos. If something happens, lights go out. I don't know. I always find that fun and just try to figure out what the hell happened. Always has intrigue. I'm excited for some of the commercials because I see that they're doing like a Breaking Bad one. That should be funny. Some of the ones that are being teased look fun. So it's overall going to be fun. But yeah, I'm always in for the chaos if anything crazy happens. Maybe there'll be like a mic issue during Rihanna's halftime. Who knows? But we'll see. There's always something interesting that happens in a Super Bowl. It never seems to be nothing exciting happens. There's always at least, other than the game, something else that was exciting to watch.
All right. We will see you Sunday at 6:30 for Super Bowl 57 on Fox. Drink responsibly, gamble responsibly, and just enjoy the company you're around because it's the Super Bowl, and who doesn't like that? All right, guys, I'll see you on Monday to record the show, and we will drop it on Tuesday, our reaction to Super Bowl 57. Have a good night, gentlemen.
See you guys
Good
later.
night. Enjoy, everyone.
Take care.